Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that dominates in today's edition for Monday, 15th September 2025, and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillean Group. U.S. begins to intervene as oil and drug wars escalate. Venezuela tries to take a large chunk of Guyana. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth visited Puerto Rico last week as the U.S. is building up its military presence in the Caribbean, putting pressure on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Washington accuses his regime of fueling drug trade, but there is much more at stake here. Now, Venezuela's dispute with Guyana over oil-rich territory is adding fuel to the fire. Here is Chuck Holden of CBN News with that story.
Just this year, the U.S. Coast Guard has seized almost $500 million worth of cocaine off the coast of Venezuela, and the Trump administration has gone on the offensive. In recent weeks, the U.S. military deployed 8 warships, surveillance planes, a nuclear submarine, and 10 stealth fighters to the region. Last week, the U.S. struck a suspected smuggling vessel, killing 11 in a mission authorized directly by the president. Officials say the surge is part of an aggressive counter-narcotics campaign.
Billions of dollars of drugs are pouring out of Venezuela and other countries. Venezuela has been a very bad actor, and we understand that.
Maduro's government denies the charges and insists the drug war is being used as a reason to destabilize his government.
Venezuela is not a relevant country in terms of drug trafficking and in all related matters. So this lie is as crude and false as the claim that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction.
Maduro has mobilized millions of militia members and warned Venezuela could declare a republic in arms if attacked. Venezuelan fighter jets have twice buzzed U.S. Navy ships in international waters. The U.S. commanders say any further threats could be met with force. Another facet to this conflict is playing out here in Guyana. Venezuela's tiny neighbor has been under threat as Venezuela claims sovereignty over approximately 2/3 of the country, along with massive offshore oil reserves. One key in this conflict is the U.S. has major business interests here, with ExxonMobil and other companies developing huge new fields. Washington's security posture may also be aimed at deterring Venezuelan moves against Guyana.
Venezuela doesn't even have any roads that connect it to its neighbor to the east here in Guyana. And the border dispute between the two countries was supposed to have been settled more than 100 years ago. Venezuela never really made much of a fuss about it until 11 billion barrels of oil was discovered offshore. And now Venezuela wants to take over an area of Guyana about the size of Florida. And that's why when Secretary of State Marco Rubio came here in March, he made it very clear to the Venezuelan government, keep your hands off.
There will be consequences for adventurism. There will be consequences for aggressive actions because you have a very difficult challenge on your hands with a dictator that's making illegitimate territorial claims.
Pressed on whether the U.S. would back Guyana militarily, Rubio left little doubt.
It would be a very bad day for the Venezuelan regime if they were to attack Guyana or attack ExxonMobil or anything like it. It would be a very bad day, a very bad week for them.
The Trump administration has a $50 million bounty on Maduro. So while U.S. officials frame the buildup as counter-narcotics, the sheer firepower deployed raises questions whether Washington is preparing to go beyond interdiction and possibly move to oust Nicolas Maduro from power. For certain, the stakes are rising. Whether this confrontation stops at drug enforcement or escalates into regime change may depend on Maduro's next move. From Georgetown, Guyana, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar of Trinidad and Tobago, meantime, has confirmed that her country has had no discussions about invading Venezuela, calling recent comments by Venezuelan officials fear-mongering. The Prime Minister dismissed speculation that Trinidad and Tobago could be drawn into any military conflict with Venezuela. TTT's Sunil Lala reports.
Speaking to reporters, she responded to Venezuela Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, warning TNT not to provoke that country.
I will dare to do what I have to do to keep the people of Trinidad and Tobago safe. That is my priority. I've said TNT first. That is my priority. I have no intention. We've had no discussions of invading Venezuela, of stepping onto Venezuelan soil. Nothing of the sort is happening.
With the United States in Caribbean waters, Mrs. Persad-Bissessar continues to welcome them, noting that it's not the first time they're here.
If that can help us stem the criminality, the trafficking, the narco-trafficking, the human trafficking, and the pain and suffering that brings to the people here, then yes, we welcome them and look forward to their cooperation with us.
However, she insisted that Trinidad and Tobago will do what is necessary if its neighbor Guyana is in trouble.
A lot of this fear-mongering, there have been no discussions with the U.S. or anyone else. However, I repeat, should Venezuela invade Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago will definitely step forward in defense of our cousins or brothers and sisters in the CARICOM.
The Prime Minister pointed out that CARICOM's response has been slowed by recent elections in member states, but insisted unity remains the goal.
I think we've had a little bit of a setback given the two elections taking place in the CARICOM, and the chairman of the CARICOM, we congratulate Prime Minister Holness, of course, and President Irfan. Their elections would have put I'm not casting any blame here, I'm just saying it might have dampened a cohesive response from the entire CARICOM. But we have always had differences, and that's another thing that is a false narrative. The CARICOM has always had differences, and that's why we say we are sovereign, but at the same time, we speak with one voice. So there are issues that will have differences of opinion.
She also addressed criticism that certain CARICOM countries are fractured over the Venezuela issue.
St. Vincent and Grenadines has always had a different kind of opinion to other members of the CARICOM. That is not to say that we are fractured. On this matter, or the Venice matter, and the Americans in our waters, CARICOM is already fractured. Several members went off to a meeting, the ALBA meeting. Trinidad is not a member of that regional body, ALBA, and made comments and gave statements long before I even stepped onto the plate. So we will have differences, but I think at the end we'll adhere together.
However, the Prime Minister said TNT remains committed to the CARICOM and to its CARICOM neighbors, noting that this country will work with them in every way possible. Sonolala, TTT News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick, in association with our friends at
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Barbados made its voice heard in the fight against climate change as Youth Delegate Denzel Green delivered a stirring address at the Regional Youth Parliament in Nassau, the Bahamas. Young Green told regional youth leaders the Caribbean is already feeling the impact of erupting volcanoes, freak storms, and deadly hurricanes. He said the adverse effects of climate change are no joke. He highlighted Barbados' leadership in informing those present that the country has the highest number of electric vehicles in the region.
We have beared witness to how suddenly characteristics in our environment can change. Whether it be the eruption of the La Soufrière volcano in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or the freak storm that caught Barbados a bit by surprise, or even right here, in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas that saw great devastation towards some of its islands because of the passage of Hurricane Dorian. But even in the midst of all of that, ma'am, I am cognizant of the fact that small island developing states will continue to face this challenge and fix it, in the words of former Prime Minister of Barbados, the late Honorable Owen Seymour Arthur. I am proud to say here this morning that back home in Barbados, the gem of the Caribbean and indeed the diamond of the world, we continue, Madam Speaker, in spite of all the differences and difficulties we face, we continue to punch above our weight. And I say so, Madam Speaker, because today Barbados has the largest amount of electric vehicles in the Caribbean and arguably in the Western Hemisphere.
The People's National Party, PNP in Jamaica, is calling for an independent inquiry into the 2025 general election. Party President Mark Golding made the call during a press conference at the party's St. Andrew headquarters on Thursday. The PNP also raised concerns about the use of state resources and the conduct of the governing Jamaica Labour Party in the lead-up to the election. Akeem Oret of CVM News reports.
At the party's headquarters in Kingston, People's National Party President Mark Golding addressed the media about what he calls troubling signs in the conduct of the September 3 election. Golding says while the party doesn't have enough evidence to mount a legal challenge against the outcome of the election, he is deeply concerned about the extensive use of state resources to impact the outcome of the election.
The massive political advertising paid for by ministries, departments, and agencies of government during and up to election day at the cost of taxpayers to benefit the incumbent JLP administration is problematic.
Golding added that the PNP has other concerns about actions of the governing Jamaica Labour Party in the build-up to the election.
We're also concerned about the unprecedented scale of distribution of benefits, black tanks, fertilizer, building materials, cash, by both the state and the Jamaica Labour Party. And in some cases, it's very different to distinguish one from the other.
The PNP is also raising concern about how the election was executed by the Electoral Office of Jamaica.
We think there should be an independent inquiry into the operation of the 2025 general election, and it should be urgently undertaken with changes implemented for future elections, because we need to improve the processes. In particular, the process that results in hours-long waits at many polling stations by voters who turn out to vote.
As a solution to the issues raised, Golding says the PNP will be going into different constituencies to get first-hand information.
We will be sending teams into those constituencies which were most affected by these issues to conduct a field survey. This survey will empower Jamaicans who experienced or witnessed these issues to share their experiences with us.
Akeem Oret, CVM News.
In developing a small island, Nevis's Premier Mark Brantley made the case during his 10th September on the Mark radio talk show that having a larger population along with business investment would drive development. Glenn Bart of SKN Newsline has more.
During the program, the Premier was voicing the need to take advantage of all opportunities to stimulate further development, inclusive of building relations with islands such as St. Bart's, while pushing for longer-term critical development as with the push towards geothermal energy. Brantley was responding to some sentiments against the inflows of CARICOM nationals.
You cannot, ladies and gentlemen, develop a country, an economy, without people. And in order to move St. Kitts and Nevis forward, we need people. And to get people, you need, one, your own local population to grow. You need, two, our people in the diaspora to come home where they can, and I've issued that invitation to them. And three, you need people to come in from outside. You know, the thing that troubles me is that we like to act brand new sometimes. When you look at countries around the world, many of them we look at and we marvel at how great they are. Singapore, oh, the Singapore model is fantastic. United Arab Emirates, everybody now wants to go to Dubai. But when you look at the population of Singapore, the population of Dubai, you see that they are built on an immigrant labor population. When you look at those populations, and these are societies that we admire, we marvel at how well they've done. They have figured out a way to have investment come in, to have people come in to work and live, pay taxes, generate revenue, generate activity. And that is what happens. And I want our people to start to broaden that horizon.
Brantley was also calling for a change in the mindset of some citizens towards the growing diversity within the Singis and Nevis population as essential components, he believes, in expanding economic development on both islands. Glenn Bart reporting for SK Newsline.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean.
In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.